All right, so my friend is starting a startup, and he's making some key mistakes, and the mistakes are costing him money in marketing. Some of them are cultural, and then others are tactical. So there were three, if I remember right. I just wrote them down. So the three are um, pause. I can't pause the stream. Darn it. First one. All right. So the problem is that the number one problem is that he's not organized. And so when he has a complicated process for marketing on the inside, and then he reaches out to an external agency, and that external agency has to do a whole bunch of like trying to figure things out, and it feels complicated, and it feels like um, the founder doesn't really know what he's talking about. Um, it loses trust, and it makes it really hard for the agency to do well because they don't and to do good work for you as the marketing company, as the startup, as the company that's doing the work. Let me see if this is any better. I think it is. All right, so the first thing is how do you stay organized? And here's something you need to know is that when people don't hear you, I'm trying to figure out my camera angle as well. When people don't think you're organized, oh, don't want to put that in there. When people don't see you as organized, then they're a lot less likely to believe that the work that they're going to do to figure you out will pay off. They're not likely to think that. And so I'm totally going to start over. Oh, hey, I have edit settings right here. I can see all the stuff. All right, so process is complicated. So here's the thing: like, if you hear someone tell you something and they just sound like they don't believe what they're talking about, or they sound like they're kind of like there's a little BS in there, and it sounds like they're BSing you a little bit. You don't know what's true and what's not. And if you are listening to them and you're trying to think, what am I going to do with my time? How am I going to invest my time with this client? And you think that you don't know where the BS ends and begins, then it's very difficult for you to be able to trust that any of the work that you do is going to be valuable. So you're going to spend, in this agency's case, you're going to spend man hours to try to figure out which of what this client says is true or not. And most people aren't going to do that. They're going to go and they're going to work on internal stuff, or they're going to work on other client work, and you're going to get the short end because you just can't be clear. That's going to cost you. So number one, his process is complicated. Number two, I forgot to mention this because I didn't have my notes in front of me, but he is trying to run a company and get funding. So he's under a lot of pressure. So to his credit, I suppose, and I like him. He's a friend of mine. So obviously, I wouldn't call him a friend if I didn't think he had some virtue. But I think he's been hurt before. So he's trying to figure out how to get people to do stuff when he doesn't understand what they do. And he's not organized enough to understand how to hold them accountable. And I can talk about how to hold people accountable at some point if you want. I think that's a big issue, big topic. But number two, he's not giving his idea enough time to work. All right, so you're in a startup, you're trying to push your idea out there. And so what you don't want to do is what my friend is trying to do. Let's call him George because I don't really know any Georges, I don't think. So let's call him George. So let's say you're George and you want to ship a product. Are you gonna wait until you absolutely have to start getting leads in order to try out any marketing? And I think this is something that a lot of people don't realize, that in marketing, there's no way you can't hire an expert and have them come in and say, I know exactly how to do this, right? You can rarely, and that's in like CPG, big companies, consumer packaged goods. Like, you can go from L'Oreal to another Procter and Gamble or something and say, oh, I know exactly how to sell this product because it's corporate, it's big, You buy Super Bowl ads, not Super Bowl ads for that probably, but you buy you like you know how to buy the media. It's the same process, right? And you're just trying to find little tiny ways to improve things, but overall, you know how to improve things, or you know how to run it. With most companies, the there's hardly any company though whose audience is identical to another company. They have the same level of service and everything. Like there's hardly any situation where those things are identical, where the audience needs to hear that particular message, and the product is exactly the same and serves exactly the same markets, and you don't have that very often. Smaller companies, like mid-sized companies, like the companies I like to help, they're they have different mixes of those things. So if you bring in somebody, someone who's a seasoned marketer, even you let's say you blow the budget out of the water and you hire the best person for the job, and they come in and they're still going to need to see, okay, well, what's different about this company and customer combination? What's special that this customer is going to need to hear, and where are they, and where do people around here go to social media? Like what is this culture like that we're selling to? And so you're going to see a little testing first. They're going to want to get out there and they're going to want to throw a few things out there and then do some split testing, and that's essential. And what we have now with my friend George is he didn't allow for any of that testing. So now every single dollar that he puts into marketing, he's throwing it all in. So let me give you an analogy. So, marketing is somewhat kind of like gambling, right? Because you don't always know where the money's going to go. But what if the you go to the casino and you're like, I think I know how to figure this out. And casinos are tough because they try not to be figured out. But customer bases aren't that sophisticated, right? They just want to find out what's the best thing for me and what makes my life easiest. And so so in this situation, you can actually go into the casino and you can test some things out. You don't take $500,000 and plop it onto like black, right? Um, you take, you know, $1,000 and you go in with theories, and you say, okay, I'm not sure if they're going to react this way or this way to this kind of thing, but I bet it's one or the other. And then you go in and you drop $5,000 or $1,000, and then you figure out which one kind of wins out. And then you say, okay, this hypothesis is a little stronger. So then you go out with another, a couple $1,000, and you test it a little better, a little more closely. And then you find out, you prove it. So now you're not spending $500,000 trying to learn a really lesson you could learn really cheaply. And that's what really good marketers know how to do. They know how to come in and say, okay, well, let's test some things out, right? Just like good UX people, if you're building a website or something like that, they know how to come in and just like, let me test things with a little bit of money so we're not gambling with a big amount of money. But if you don't allow for that, then and you're like, we need to make money right now. Well, now you're in desperation mode. And that's what I see with George right now. And so you need to give your idea enough time to work. So one, the process is complicated. It needs to be simpler. The handoff needs to be just black and white. Like, here, agency, here's what you need to do. Here's our process. Here's our everything. Here's what you need to do. He's not giving his idea enough time to work. And then the third thing is he's making each person think they're the problem. And this is a little bit toxic, George. I love you, but you're being a little bit toxic. And what he's sometimes trying to do is, and I hear this, they'll come with an idea, and they'll say, here's what we did. And then he'll say, hey, I'm not getting anything from you guys. Like, everything else is working well, but you guys aren't. And instead of And so they know that he's not telling completely the truth because of other things he says, right? They know that he doesn't have all these things worked out. A, from other things he said. B, because he's not firing them. He doesn't have any other better options. He ultimately trusts them. with a lot of things, but he's not getting the results he wants, and he doesn't want to believe it's his product. He thinks his product is perfect, right? And so those are the three things that if you get those things in order, you're going to set yourself up for success when you're trying to ship a product. And I know this is an operations podcast, but my background is in marketing. And so when I have these situations, I want to bring them to you and give you guys the rundown. And I'm sorry for the rough beginning, but let's summarize. So his process was complicated. He's not getting his process is complicated. He's involving the agency and all the weeds behind things. He's going off and talking about all kinds of things that the agency is like, do I need to care about this or do I not? Because I'm confused, right? Instead of coming to them and saying, "Okay, here's what we have. Here's our goal. Does this make sense?" And then asking the agency to give you feedback based on your plan. Instead, he's just nobody knows what his plan is, really. Um, and so that's complicated. The handoff is not clear. It's very complicated. He's not giving his idea enough time to work. And then he's making each person think that they are the problem. And that's not a good way to run a company. And if you guys want, we can talk about, I do need to know this is what you want to talk about. We can talk about how do you measure people without using guilt? How do you motivate people without using that without creating a toxic environment where people don't trust, where nobody really knows what's going on, and anybody who's there and is successful is just kind of kissing up to the leader. So we'll talk about that next time. But let's go ahead and conclude. But let me know what you think. Thanks.